Thanks for checking out Scotty's Hobbies. This is a place where you will find how to maintain your vehicle to make it last the longest it possibly can and to make you proud of what you're driving, as well as getting the most efficiency out of your vehicle, such as gas mileage and power. This vehicle, we're going to be doing a tune-up, which is just the spark plugs, or should I say, we're just going to be replacing the spark plugs on this vehicle. First, I'm using a 10mm socket to remove the cover over the ignition coils. If you do need some tools or a basic mechanic set, make sure you look for a link in the description below to purchase those, as well as tools and parts shown in the video. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share while you're watching as well. This process should be the same, if not very similar, to many makes and models of vehicles out there. All the way from Acura TSX, the Acura RSX, Honda Accord, Honda Civic, a Honda CR-V, Honda Elements, Honda Pilots, and the S2000s somehow. I came up with that list from looking at what vehicles use the same ignition coils, so it should be pretty similar to remove those and get to the spark plugs, I would assume. If you do use this video to get your DIY job done, make sure you comment below what the year, make, and model of the vehicle that this video did help you on. You might need to complete this process for a few reasons. Hopefully you're just doing this for vehicle maintenance so you get the best efficiency out of your engine and your vehicle. But this could solve some codes. The codes will be listed in the description below, but you're looking for something around a P0300 or 301 or P0302, 303, and 304, such as that. You can see right here I'm using a 10mm socket again to remove the bolt that holds down your ignition coil. Now that the bolt is out, set off to the side where you're not going to lose it. Lift up on your ignition coil just directly straight up. Lift it up just a tad bit, maybe an inch, inch and a half, and then remove this connection right here. On the back side of it, you have a clip that you need to push in and then slide it right out. I like to pull up the ignition coil and then disconnect it. Makes it a little bit easier and gives you a little bit more wiggle room to disconnect that pigtail from the ignition coil. I am using a 6-inch 3/8 extension and a 5/8 6-point socket with a magnet in the socket to remove the spark plug. I did notice my 16mm spark plug socket fit as well, but that is a 12-point socket and I just don't like the fitment of it. So I used the 5/8 6-point. There will be a link in the description below if you need spark plug sockets or a spark plug socket set. I always recommend getting something with a magnet inside or the rubber tube inside so you could pull the spark plug out just like this. Sometimes it doesn't work as easy as it just did for me on this video, but makes your life a little bit easier if you do have them. Every time I remove the spark plugs, I take a look at the spark plug and see if I could find something wrong with it so I could read the engine a little. Also, when I install the spark plugs, I always make sure the gap is proper. If you don't know the gap for your vehicle, maybe I could help you out with that. Comment below with the year, make, model, and engine size of your vehicle, and maybe I could tell you what gap you should be set at. When you are setting the gap, do not touch or do your best to not bend the electrode coming through the spark plug. If you need to make an adjustment, you want to bend that top piece that comes over the spark plug to catch the spark. So I like to use a hose to install all my spark plugs. This is a 3/8 hose that's for a fuel line, so it's nice and sturdy. I use this to start my spark plugs so I don't cross thread them. If it gets hard to turn, I'll back it right out and find the right thread and not take any chance of cross threading. As well, I do not use any anti-seize. Some people do and some people don't. If you do use it, let me know in the comments below why I should be using it. But what I do like to do when I install my spark plugs is use a torque wrench. On this vehicle, the torque is, or the specified torque is super low. I'm really afraid if anything's going to happen, honestly, but it calls for only 13 foot-pounds. So all of them, I do that. A little bit later in the video, I'll go over why I don't use anti-seize, and I will go over how to read your spark plugs a little bit, so stay tuned in this video. You can see right here I'm using dielectric grease. I'm putting it in the spark plug boot and as well on the ignition coil connection side. I like to use dielectric grease on most of my electronic components connections. Slide your ignition coil down into the cylinder after you properly tightened your spark plug, but don't forget to connect your electrical connection before you tighten it down, as I almost did there. That dielectric grease will keep the water out if you, for some reason or somehow, get water into the engine. It'll fill up the gap so water cannot seep into the connection. And then secondly, it makes a good connection. If there is a gap somewhere, it'll give the electricity a good way to jump across. Instead of having to jump across the gap of air, it could travel through the greasy stuff. I couldn't find a torque specification on tightening down these here 10mm bolts that hold your ignition coils down, but I would say don't go anything over about 10 foot-pounds if you are going to use a torque wrench. The valve cover is really weak because it's aluminum, so you don't want to over tighten it or break these bolts, so don't give yourself more problems. And like I said, only go about 10 foot-pounds, or like German torque specs of guten tight. After you get done with that first spark plug set, the coil and the spark plug, the other three are pretty much exactly the same. I didn't notice anything different other than some of the bolts stayed on that cover, and I didn't notice it until I got to that coil. But you can see, using the extension and the 5/8 socket with the magnet, I'm taking the number 2 spark plug out. Gonna check it. I'm gonna check for wear. Hopefully, when you look at your spark plug, your gap is just a little bit big, and you can see here it's tannish, brownish. There's no real problems with this spark plug other than the gap is huge. This vehicle calls for a 40 hundredths gap, I believe it was. But we were at 50 100ths of a gap. So the gap was a little bit bigger than it should, which was causing this vehicle to be a little bit less efficient than it should. And that's why we're doing this tune-up. There was no other reasons to do it, but other than for regular maintenance to get the best efficiency we can out of this vehicle. Here I'm tightening down the number 2 spark plug using that torque wrench down to 13 foot-pounds. If you're working on a different vehicle, comment below with the year, make, and model of the vehicle as well on your torque specifications. I might be able to help you out with that, just in case they are different or you can't find them out there on the interweb. Let's say you pull out a spark plug and it just doesn't look right. It's black, it's shiny, it smells like oil. That's not a good sign. If you do end up having that issue, you're looking at something like a valve guide seal or maybe a piston ring allowing oil to get into the combustion chamber. So you might want to look into the engine and see if you're having more issues. And as well, in that case, you might have a code come up and the check engine light turn on. Let's say you pull a spark plug out and it's black and dry and doesn't smell too much. In that case, you will have a carbon-fouled spark plug. Again, can cause a check engine light. In this case, you might have a lean condition. That could be from a mechanical issue, not allowing enough fuel into the engine, or it could be a computer issue where the computer is not adding enough fuel. So you'll need a further diagnosis in that case as well. But it's something to look out for. Again, I check the gap on all my spark plugs before I install them. What if it was dropped somewhere in the factory or between A and B when it's shipped around the country to get to my hands? So I always make sure my gap is proper. And also, I think that they make spark plugs for multiple vehicles, and some vehicles call for a different gap. So they make a gap that's acceptable for multiple vehicles, and I like to make sure that the gap is set to my particular vehicle when I install the spark plugs. If you have a different way of doing that, or if you think I could be doing something better, make sure you comment below as well. Like, subscribe, and share. 2, if you know anybody that's taking care of their vehicle or trying to get the best performance or efficiency out of their vehicle, make sure you tell them about me, please. You can see I use this dielectric grease religiously. I use it on every electrical component I come across. It's really weird. If I don't have it, I usually stop and go get more. And if you need some, make sure you look for a link in the description below to purchase that. And let's go on to if we pull out a bad spark plug or a spark plug that doesn't look right. And this one is going to be a spark plug that will tell you that your engine is running a little bit hot or is with a hot condition. And that'll be when you pull out a spark plug and the tip of it looks a little bit fat, looks a little melted more towards the electrode or whatnot. It just doesn't look right, but you'll see black dots on the insulator around the igniter. That'll be a really good indication that your engine or that cylinder for some reason is running hot. So again, start looking for something else. Make sure you got a good cooling system, efficiency, and just proper flow. They might have a bad water pump or maybe a restricted radiator. So that's something to look out for. The gap is actually really important. If the spark has to jump across the gap a lot or past a big gap, it'll make a weaker spark, so you won't get a efficient burn, or as efficient burn is if your gap was a little bit shorter. But then you could go too short and cause some problems as well. So make sure your gap is proper when you're installing these spark plugs. To me, in my opinion, it is a very important step in doing a proper tune-up or a proper spark plug replacement. Try to throw in one more condition of a spark plug, and let's say you pull out a spark plug and it's broke or a piece of it's missing. First thing, I would worry about, where did the piece of the spark plug go? And then second, why did this spark plug fall apart like this? Probably the spark plug, one, could be defective, or it could be that your engine is heating up and cooling down excessively and fast. So maybe you're running really hot and your radiator or your thermostat opens up and allows the cool air to rush through, and you might have some type of restriction that makes it cool down real quick and then heats up to an average or a normal than average temperature and cools down again. But that would be one more condition of a spark plug, or how to read the spark plug. And there are many other conditions. If you have something else, make sure you comment below and let us know about that. Maybe we could figure out what's going on with your vehicle. Maybe one of these two videos right here might help you out, and I have a lot of videos coming out on this Honda, so make sure you like, subscribe, and share, such as the PCV valve and the cabin air filter, and more. Like, subscribe, and share. I'll see you on the next hopefully helpful video.